fragile, very vulnerable ceasefire was reached, actually signed by Armenia, Azerbeidzjan, and Nagorno Karabakh, and it effectively ended hostilities, but it was only a month-to-month ceasefire. More recently, we see much more of an escalation. We see a danger of war. However, what is most tragic is that nearly 2 years after the war in Georgia, we now see the likelihood of danger and of war in the region returning and becoming even more of a threat. Mainly because of frustration. There seems to be mounting frustration with the lack of progress over the conflict through 16 years of diplomacy. And we see frustration politically and diplomatically now being exerted in terms of leverage, being exerted through military options and military means. More than shootings, we now see tension escalating to include actual attacks and limited skirmishes. And the real danger is a war by accident, where limited attacks and skirmishes spiral quickly out of control and escalate very rapidly. We are very concerned in this region that a war by accident is much more likely than a war by official declaration. Well, in a general sense, both sides remain far too apart in terms of with vast differences in even the agenda for negotiations. Having said that, however, there is inherent significance in the fact that there is dialogue and that there are consistent and regular meetings between both sides. The minute these meetings stop will be destructive for everyone. And in fact, the point is dialogue is important inherently and by and of itself offers some hope to resolving this conflict because everyone will lose. Maybe our focus on Nagorno Karabakh and our focus on this unresolved conflict is mistaken. Maybe we need more democracy in Armenia and Azerbaijan first, and only then can the parties come together and craft a real compromise. Europe should care more about the lack of a peace settlement in this region, because the real lesson from Georgia and the Balkans is conflicts like this in very geopolitically sensitive regions where outside players like Iran, Russia, and Turkey can be drawn in greatly affect European stability. This is not just security and stability along the European Union peripheries, however. This will also affect the flow of and transport of gas and oil. This is an energy important region with enormous geopolitical repercussions. Therefore, it is a necessity for the European Union to not only pay attention, but also prevent any outbreak of conflict or renewed hostilities. We have international mediators from within the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, representing Russia, the United States, and France, actively engaged. I think the problem is not international community's commitment. I think the problem is the states themselves to the conflict, where the parties to the conflict themselves hold the key to the solution. And there's only so much the international community can do to encourage compromise and to help a lasting and durable resolution. I'm optimistic for the broader future. In other words, for the next 10 to 15 years, I'm very skeptical that we'll see any change or real new developments of this frozen conflict. But in history, that is not very long. And in military terms, that is not very long either. I think it may take a new generation to solve this conflict.